والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Today we have continuation of our talks regarding some points of our aqidah, our belief. And today is a very big topic actually, which is not really possible to cover everything of it in 1 hour or even more. But we will try. In Arabic they say ما لا يدرك كله لا يترك جله فإن استطعنا أن ندرك جله الحمد لله. That what you can't achieve everything of, you don't leave most of it. So we will try inshallah to hopefully cover it, because the issue of kufr and nifaq are some of the biggest issues in the deen of Islam. And the ulama call these issues sometimes masail al-kufr wal-iman, the issues of kufr and iman, and sometimes they call them masail asma' ad-din, the issues of the names of the deen, because these are to do with names. Someone is mu'min, muslim, kafir, munafiq. These are very serious issues. That's why someone like me, I just benefit from the ulama and I relay what they say. And today I benefited a lot, not only from his book, but especially from someone who I feel proud to consider my Shaykh, and he agrees with that, alhamdulillah. And that's Shaikh Dr. Khaalid al-Anbari, Jazahullah khaira wa hafizahu. And he wrote a very beneficial book called Al-Hukm بغير ما أنزل الله وأصول التكفير في ضوء الكتاب والسنة أو قال سلف الأمة, which is not a very big book but very beneficial book, called ruling by others than Allah, what Allah revealed, and the principles of takfir, because we are not going to talk only about takfir, but it's part of the lecture. In the light, he said, of the Quran and the Sunnah and the sayings of the Salaf al-Ummah, the Salaf of this Ummah, the pious predecessors. Some people, they try to cast doubts over this book. Just I want to make one statement about it. The 3 biggest ulama of our time said good things about this book. Shaykh Ibn Baz rahimahullah was asked in a lecture about this book, and he said that it was a very good book. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he wrote a foreword for this book in which he praised the book, and he said, and I heard my own ears from a tape by Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, that he said, وَلِأَخِينَ خَالِدْ الْعَنْبَرِي كِتَابٌ فِي هَذَا أي في التكفير. He said, our brother Khalid al-Anbari, he wrote a book in takfir, in this issue. وقال ما أظن ترك مجالا لأحد. By writing this book, he said, I don't think he left anything for anyone to write. That is a very big words from Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah. And also Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he was asked, Shaykh said to myself, Shaykh Khalid al-Anbari, they went with some other people and they asked Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen about the book, and he said that the book is very good. So that is sufficient for us. Those 3, they agree, alhamdulillah. So the book is very good. But we're going to talk about kufr and nifaq, not just kufr. But I benefited greatly from that book. Most of the lecture I based on that book, because he discussed the issue of kufr in detail. And who doesn't thank the people doesn't thank Allah. So I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I thank after Allah, I thank Shaykh Khalid al-Anbari for writing such a nice book, very simple. And today we're going to talk about kufr and nifaq. And as usual, we start by saying the definition of kufr and nifaq in the Arabic language. The ulama of Arabic, and I consulted a few dictionaries when I was writing the lecture, they said al-kafru bil-fathi at-taghtiya wa babuhu daraba. When they say kafr, it's like English cover. It means covering. Kafr means covering. Wal-kafru aydan al-qarya. Also, it can mean a village. والكافر يقولون الليل المظلم لأنه سطر بظلمته كل شيء. And they also used to say in proper Arabic that kafir to mean very dark night because it covers with its darkness everything. وكل شيء غطى شيئا آخر فقد كفره. Everything that covers something else, it has done kafr of it. قال ابن السكيت رحمه الله منه سمي الكافر لأنه يستر نعم الله عليه. That's why one of the ulama said of Arabic, a kafir is called kafir because he conceals the favors of Allah upon him. And from this is what the ulama call kufru ni'ma or kufranu ni'ma. And that is to not be grateful to Allah for his favors. And that is what we know, the wife, the only case to my knowledge of khul' that we have, not like now everyday khul'. It's become khul' issue, everyday talaq, everyday khul'. We have, as to my knowledge, I may be wrong, but to my knowledge we only have one authentic hadith on khul', and that is the wife of Thabit ibn Qais ibn Shammas radiallahu anhu, whom the Prophet ﷺ said, one of Ahlul Jannah. His wife said, I don't want to live with him because I don't like how he looks and how he behaves. And she said, I hate ubghidul kufra. I don't want to be ungrateful to him for what he does because he is a very good man. So the word kufr used in this hadith, the ulama said, means kufr ni'ma, not kufr that takes the person out of Islam, meaning not to be grateful for the ni'ma Allah gave you, and meaning to cover it. And some ulama said kafir is called kafir because لأنه يستر الحق, because the person covers the truth. وكذلك قالوا الكافر الزارع لأنه يغطي البذر بالتراب. Also kafir can mean in Arabic زارع, the person or farmer, because he covers the seeds with the soil. And of course we know the ayah يعجب الزراع, some يعجب الكفار, some ulama said it's زراع, and some ulama said it's kuffar as it is said. وأخيرا قال وأكفره دعاه كافرا. And to do takfir, here it said to do ikfar is to call someone a kafir, عياذا بالله, who doesn't deserve or deserves أكفره. And nifaq, so you can see the link between the linguistic meaning and the meaning in Sharia. And nifaq generally comes from the word nafaq, and nafaq has a few meanings. One of them is to become poor or less wealthy, and from that is infaq or nafaqa. And also we have the word called nafaq in Arabic, and that means a tunnel. It goes from one side into the ground and comes out the other side, as we know. And many ulama said nifaq, it means to go one way. دخول قالوا الدخول في الشرع من باب والخروج عنه من باب عياذا بالله. To go and to become a Muslim one way and to leave Islam another way. And they talk of course about nifaq akbar, as we will see. نعم. And for that I used القاموس المحيط and مختار الصحاح and مفردات Imam Asbahani rahimahumullah. Second point I would like to mention is that kufr and nifaq, belief, disbelief and hypocrisy, is divided into two types, and that is major akbar and minor asghar. And the one that we call kufr akbar and nifaq akbar, which is the terms that I will use inshallah. So before I forget, I would like to apologize if last week I used some terms and I didn't translate them. But akbar means major. So kufr akbar and nifaq akbar, nifaq hypocrisy, akbar major, because in Arabic the description comes after the word. Like we say major kufr, major in English comes before kufr. But in Arabic it's the other way around. We say kufr major, if you translate literally. So nifaq akbar and kufr akbar is synonymous to shirk akbar. Synonymous to shirk akbar, because what Allah said about shirk, He said about kufr. And also ulama said that ayah or those two ayat in Surah An-Nisa in which Allah said, Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi. Allah doesn't forgive that shirk be done to Him or associates equal to Him made up. That includes kufr as well. But also what Allah said about that said, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ حَبِطَ عَمَلُهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. That whoever disbelieves in Iman, then his actions are lost, invalid, and he in the hereafter will be from the losers. And the same, of course, we said about shirk. لَإِنَّ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ وَلَتَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Now, so that in that sense, it doesn't mean that ayah means who does shirk is that Allah doesn't forgive if he doesn't shirk akbar, alaykum salam rahmatullah, shirk akbar, and he doesn't repent, Allah doesn't forgive. But someone who does kufr akbar or nifaq akbar, Allah forgives. No, it is synonymous. Naam. And of course nifaq akbar and nifaq asghar are much simpler to understand than kufr akbar sometimes and kufr asghar. That is because generally the ulama describe nifaq to mean, and of course most of us we know that hypocrite is someone who pretends something he's not. That is the general idea that we have of a hypocrite or munafiq. And of course the ulama said the similar thing. They said the general way of nifaq is izharul khair wa ibtanul shar, to show to people that the person is good and to hide that the person is bad and evil. And of course nifaq akbar, the ulama they said, is the one mentioned in the Quran and described in the Quran. So when we have Surah Al-Munafiqun, whole surah revealed about them. Surah At-Tawbah, the ulama called it the surah that disgraced the munafiqeen, because it kept saying, some ulama and from the Salaf, from the Sahaba said, it kept saying وَمِنْهُمْ 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 until they were fearing Allah would name them by name in the surah, because it kept saying from them and they, meaning the munafiqun, the hypocrites. And also of course beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah talks a little bit about the kuffar, then He talks at length about munafiqun, the hypocrites. And they're the ones whom He said, في قلوبهم مرض, in their hearts there is disease. So all of the nifaq found in the Quran is nifaq akbar, major. The one that the person, if he or she has it, a'yadhan billah, takes the person out of the deen of Islam. And that is to hate Islam and to love kufr. That is in a few words. That follows everything else. To hate that Muslims and Islam, they get something good. To love if the enemies of Muslims and Islam, they gain the upper hand, and so on and so forth. And anything from the religion, to hate it to the extent that you would like, or the person would like, for it not to exist. And there are many examples. So that is the main. And to ulama gave examples, because sometimes the ulama, when they do tafsir of Quran, they do tafsir bil amthal. They say, for example, this ayah means like this, and they give one example, but they explain by examples. So these are examples. They said, for example, to be happy when the Muslims have some problem. This is a sign of munafiq, a'yadhan billah. To be sad when the Muslims have good news, the other way around. And of course that all is happening in the heart, brothers and sisters. That's why it's so important to take care of our heart, of our hearts. Because if it is healthy, as you know from the hadith of Nu'man bin Bashir, the whole body is healthy. And if it is diseased and bad, the whole body will be diseased. And that is why some people have the cancer of heart and they don't know, they didn't diagnose it yet. And as soon, the quicker you diagnose any serious illness, the better, the more chance you have of trying to fight it. That is why the diseases of the heart have much more priority than the diseases of the body. And yet, many people, Muslims and non-Muslims, they spend so much money and time and effort to look after their bodies, which is important. But it's much more important to look after their hearts. So we go, for example, someone looks after the body, looks after what they eat, which is very important. They go to the gym, or they walk, or they do something active way of life, which is very nice and important, but they totally disregard their heart. They never look, how is my heart? How can someone do a heart check? Just ask the ulama if you don't know how to, because they're the doctors of the hearts, or read Quran, alaykum salam, and see what Allah said about munafiqun, the hypocrites, ayadan billah. And Allah said even about hypocrites, when you look at them, تُعْجِبُكَ أَجْسَامُهُم, their bodies please you. And that shows that the munafiqun, ayadan billah, all their attention is for the body. They don't really pay attention to the heart. So we must try to be very careful about this. Because we spend, some brothers I know, they spend so much money on gym, on this, which is good. Don't misunderstand me, it's good. But you never see them in lessons. You never see them in things that they correct their beliefs. They stay away from haram. Was in the gym, most of them goes haram gym anyway. Fitna first. Not fitness first. Soon as you walk, you have fitna first. Because we men, we know the fitna. Soon as we walk, we see fitna, mashallah. Some who fear Allah, they say, A'udhu billah, I go home. The others say, mashallah. Because we are men, we know the fitna. And many of these gyms, they're fitna first, nothing else. And fitna next and last. So we have to pay attention, and that environment doesn't encourage you to fear Allah. Of course not. It encourages you, so we must know our priorities. It does mean we must not look after ourselves, but everyone can walk, ikhwan. The point I'm making is we must know these things. These are very important issues. What is nifaq asghar, minor, and that is what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in hadith, two hadiths actually. They're very similar, narrated by two different sahaba. And you can say it one hadith, the hadith of Abu Huraira, it says 3 signs, and hadith of Abdullah bin Amr bin Al-As adds a 4th one. Both are collected by Bukhari and Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا حَدَّثَ كَذَب. And he said in the hadith of Abdullah bin Amr Al-As, these are 4 shu'ab, 4 branches of hypocrisy. That's the minor one. Who has them all, huwa munafiq khalis. Ayadan billah. Who has them all, he is a pure hypocrite. وَمَنْ كَانَ فِيهِ شُعْبَةٌ مِّنْهَا أو مِنْهُنَّ فَفِيهِ شُعْبَةٌ مِّنَ النِّفَاقِ حَتَّى يَدَعَهَا. So this person, if he has one of them, he has a branch or a characteristic of hypocrisy until he leaves it. And he named them, إِذَا حَدَّثَ كَذَب. When he speaks, he lies. Very scary. When he speaks, he lies. So one of the characteristics of a munafiq. Meaning the one that doesn't take out of the deen, but munafiq. Who wants to be a munafiq? Who is proud to say, I'm munafiq? So when he speaks, he lies. إِذَا وَعَدَ أَخْلَفْ. This is something, subhanAllah, many brothers do. When he promises, he breaks the promise. When we say, Ikhwan, we meet 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, meaning you agree with someone, even non-Muslim, doesn't matter. We must keep it. Unless we are not able, then that's out of our hand. And now, of course, we have phones and everything. We should try and inform the person. But if we did everything we can to make that appointment and to fulfill that promise, then we don't have مَا عَلَى الْمُحْسِنِينَ مِنْ سَبِيلٍ. We don't have blame. But it's very important. One of the signs of hypocrite is that when he promises, he breaks the promise. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu used to say that when you promise a child, don't break the promise. When you promise a child, don't break the promise. So we have to be careful about our promises. The third one, إِذَا أُتُمِنَ خَانٍ. When he is entrusted with something, any amana, he betrays that trust. And the Prophet of course said, La imana, very severe words, subhanAllah. La imana liman la amanata lah. The person who can't be entrusted with amana, with some trust, has no iman. Meaning he's not a kafir, but he behaves like one. And fourth is the addition in the other hadith, إِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرْ. إِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرْ. And that's also many people I experienced do. When he argues, he goes into fujur, into disobedience of Allah. The ulama explained by saying that fajra an yadda'iya ma laysa lahu, to claim what is not for you in an argument or something, or to reject what is against you. So that's a fourth sign. So these are the signs of a hypocrite, and generally anything that the person does or says that contradicts, like for example some Sahaba, they were asked, I think Ibn Umar or one of the ulama of Sahaba, he said, I go to someone and I say nice things, then when I leave him I say bad things. He said we used to count that from nifaq. Meaning when you go and you say, like two-face, yeah, people say, you have one face, then you have another face. Some have three even, or four, have different pockets for different faces, like this. So that's very dangerous, and we must try our best to advise each other, because if a person wants to worship Allah and follow the Sunnah, they will accept it. If they care about themselves, of course they will not accept it. Now, regarding kufr, the kufr also is kufr akbar, kufr asghar. And of course, kufr asghar, the ulama said, is everything that the Sharia called kufr, like in that hadith of that I just said about khul'. She said, I don't like to do kufr in Islam, meaning I don't like to be ungrateful. Everything that Islam called kufr but doesn't reach kufr akbar. For one reason or another, we have dalil, proof from the book or the sunnah to show that that kufr, what is meant by that is not the one that takes the person out of Islam. And that includes the rulers. And we will inshallah mention that. And of course these issues are extremely serious. That's why what Shaikh Khaalid al-Anbari hafizahullah has done is he took the sayings of the ulama starting from the Sahaba time regarding this issue. So we only take from the ulama, and as far as I remember, he counted the people whose opinion he wrote regarding just one ayah, something like 28 or 30 from the biggest ulama, including Ibn Abbas, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, and in our time, of course, the ulama of our time. So when we talk about iman and kufr and nifaq and those names, we must always check with the big ulama. The older the better, if possible. Why? Because with time, some ulama, they may change their opinions on some things. And of course, issues of kufr and iman, very dangerous issues. Now we have very young people talking about them, most of the time, unfortunately, in a wrong way. Because they say that person is a kafir, that person is a munafiq. I personally know many brothers who do that. I was once somewhere and I said, how about this brother? I didn't see him. Where is he? The reply was, he's a munafiq. I said, I was shocked, like someone hit me. I said, how can you say that about this brother? He said, why do you say I know him? He's not a munafiq. He said, he promised and didn't do it. I said, then akhi, you and me, we are first munafiq. Because how many times, sometimes we don't do. We try to fight ourselves to remove it, of course. But how can you say about a brother because he made a mistake, munafiq? That's very dangerous. We must not say such things. We must be scared to say such things. So it's very important. So kufr akbar, because kufr asghar is what Sharia called kufr, but we have dalil. Like the Prophet said, لا ترجعوا بعد كفارا يضرب بعضكم رقاب بعض. Don't become kuffar after me, hitting the necks of one another, or fighting, meaning. And Allah said in the Quran in 2 or 3 places, if the Muslims, if one in Surah Al-Baqarah, فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٍ, the person who is the killer, the murderer, if he is forgiven, if he called him brother. And also in Surah Al-Hujurat, وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا, 2 groups of believers, Allah said, they fight. So the hadith doesn't mean kuffar. If Muslims fight, they become all kuffar. Doesn't mean that. Why? We have dalil. So this is kufr asghar. That's very important to know. And of course, most people, they look and say, A'udhu billah, Allah said kufr. The Prophet said kufr. So it's kafir. So if it was that simple, why do we have other proofs? Why do we have Quran? That's why we must try and have two characteristics the Prophet ﷺ praised. When the delegation Wafd Abdul Qais, there was a tribe called Abdul Qais, and they came and asked about when they became Muslim. They came and stayed for a while with the Prophet ﷺ to ask about Iman and what to do, what actions. They said, what actions can we do that make us enter Jannah? And the Prophet ﷺ told them. And the Prophet ﷺ, he told the delegation of Abdul Qais, Wafd Abdul Qais, there was a man whom he said, Inna fika khaslataini yuhibbuhum Allah. You have 2 qualities, Allah loves them, al-hilm wal-ana. And al-hilm can be translated as tolerance, meaning to tolerate when others do something bad, you tolerate for the sake of Allah. And it can be translated as mercy. And anat means not to rush to conclusions. Straight away we hear something, oh, that's it. And of course that goes, the older you become, the less you do that, because at least if you don't learn from the deen, you learn from your experiences. So these 2 we should try and have. So when we hear something, we shouldn't rush. Oh, the brother, I saw him like this. We try and look for excuses for that brother or that sister. So that's very important. If we do that in lower than kufr, then it has more right to be done in kufr. And of course we have many examples. Maybe you remember that hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah is more pleased with the tawbah. I can't say everything in Arabic because it takes longer. Is more pleased with the tawbah of one of you than one of you pleased with his camel or riding animal that goes with all his food and drink in the desert, and then he thinks he's going to die, and then he sleeps and finds his camel again. And what does he say? Because he's so happy, he says, oh Allah, you're my slave, I'm your Lord. Is this kufr or not? It's kufr, of course. Who can say Allah is my slave? A'udhu billah. And the Prophet said, أخطأ من شدة الفرح. He has an excuse. What that excuse is, he was so happy, he doesn't know what he's saying even. طيب? That's one hadith. So we will talk about that. And the second hadith, and this hadith is Bukhari Muslim, and the second hadith is also in Bukhari Muslim. It says, a man before you, the Prophet said, there was a man before you, he didn't do many good deeds. He was a bad man. And he was afraid that Allah would punish him. And he said to his children, when I die, أحرقوني, burn me. and take my ashes and scatter half in the sea, half bar on the ground. And the children did. Because he said, if Allah is able, look, if لَإِنْ قَدِّرَ اللَّهُ عَلَيَّ, if Allah is able to bring me back, that kufr or not? To doubt that Allah is able to bring you back? Then He will punish me severely if He is able. So then Allah said to the sea, gather, make what was in the sea, and to the ground, and then he was a man. Allah will say to him, Ma hamalak, what made you do what you did? He said, Khashyatuk, I was fearing you. He will say, Qad ghafartu lak, I have forgiven you. So these ahadith is very important for us to understand. Before we talk about, we shouldn't be talking about takfir and kufr and iman and these. But when we talk, we must understand that these ahadith, they're not just somewhere we found in unknown books. These are Bukhari and Muslim. And many people, shayateen ins, people of bid'ah, people of fitna, they don't want you to know them. Because if you know, you will say to them, what do you say about this hadith? And they will be stuck. They have nothing to say. So therefore, it's very important for us to always refer to the ulama who are known for the sunnah and tawheed. So that no one accuses anyone of being from the murji'ah or khawarij, these groups, deviant that appeared at the beginning of the first centuries of Islam. Kufr is of 6 kinds. I will go through them briefly. Kufr takdhib, and that is to disbelieve that the Prophet ﷺ brought the truth. Kufr al-juhud, the person, he knows it's the truth, but he conceals it and says that it's not true, like Fir'aun. وَهُوَ مُطْلق, and that is general, like to debate, to say that everything that he brought is untrue. And muqayyad, which is specific, to say that some of what he brought is not true, like to say salah is not fard, that's kufr. Or to say zina is halal, because Quran and the Prophet said zina haram. But there's a difference between the person doing it and saying it. There's a difference. Third, what we call kufr al-inad or kufr istikbar or iba, that is deliberately to say that what they say, what the Prophet says and what Quran says is true. Some people think, mashallah, he's a Muslim already. No. Says what is true, and he believes in it even, that it's true, but doesn't want to submit to it. Like they quote the kufr of Iblis, because Iblis, shaitan, he if you read the Quran and Sunnah, he knows, and he even gives oath, فَبِعِزَّتِكَ, by your izzah, and he acknowledges that there is Yawm al-Qiyamah, because he says, أَنظِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ, give me time until the day they will be brought forth. So he doesn't say that there's all not true, but he doesn't want to submit. And inad is to be stubborn in not accepting it. Naam. That's why the ulama make a distinction in this type between a person who does something, they call it mustakbiran, not accepting the truth, and mushtahiyan, which is he accepts the truth. Look how fine, subhanAllah, the difference is. He accepts the truth, but he has some shahwa, like he wants to commit zina, a'yadhan billah. Like I was talking to someone, and I said, because he said to me, I have many Muslim friends. I said, why don't you become a Muslim? He said, I like bacon. It can be, yani someone likes bacon, because shaitan makes the person like something that's unhealthy, or either for the body or for the soul or something. So the person who says that, should we say until you hate bacon stay kafir? No, we say become Muslim, don't worry. If you eat bacon, don't worry. because we can talk about bacon later. At least become Muslim. That's the main thing. Save yourself from the hellfire. Then we can talk about bacon and everything. And hijab. Some girls and women come and say, you know, hijab, I can't wear it really. We say, don't worry. Don't wear it. Know Allah. Who is Allah? Now, then we talk about hijab. Or they come and say, I can't accept 4 wives. What's this? First of all, most brothers can't do it anyway. So be happy, sisters. But they can do maybe if they kill themselves 2. But we don't talk about this to non-Muslim. Don't worry about 4, 2, 3. Just know Allah. And that's how the Prophet ﷺ used to do. He used to say, because I know, he used to say, alayhi salam, first thing, call to Tawheed. Don't say hijab, you start with hijab. Why? So the person, there is a difference between a person who wants to reject the truth because he's mustakbir, like Abu Talib. I think we mentioned him last week. Abu Talib, he did not embrace Islam. And he used to say, how can my bottom, sorry to say, be higher than my face in sujood? Walaikum salam. That's istikbar. That's feeling proud. Not, why should I do this? Allah told me to do this and I don't want to do it. And he died, iyadhan billah, upon kufr. Now, the fourth is kufrul i'rad. To turn away. Doesn't believe and doesn't disbelieve. Doesn't listen, doesn't want to deliberately. But why? Because he hates it and he doesn't want to pay attention to it. Some Muslims can become kafir through that. It's very dangerous. That's why we must be careful about these things. Kufrun nifaq. Of course, we talked about that. That's kufr akbar. Kufr batinan wa id'an zahiran. I.e. the person, he shows outwardly that he is a Muslim. And of course he says, La ilaha illallah. But why doesn't it make him a Muslim? Because he differs inside. So he doesn't believe La ilaha illallah, which means I must worship only Allah. He doesn't believe Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which means that I must follow him to worship Allah. Now, and finally, kufr shak is the kufr of doubting, and the person is constantly in doubt, doesn't say anything. And generally the ulama said it doesn't last unless the person deliberately wants to not look at the proofs that the Prophet ﷺ is haq, is true, and what he brought is true. Because if a person does, either that person will hate what Islam brings. In that case, the doubt will go, because they will become one other kufr, either i'rad or something, or istikbar, they don't want to accept, or they will love and accept it and become Muslim. Now, and also kufr, so that no one accuses me or anyone else of anything. Kufr, and this is from the kalam of ulama, kufr can happen in 3 ways: through belief, through actions and sayings. Through belief, i'tiqad, and through actions and sayings. So for example, someone believes that it's permissible to worship others with Allah. That is kufr by belief. Or someone believes that khamr is halal, intoxicants and alcohol and all similar things. And we will see inshallah regarding amal, the ulama give examples of actions like to disrespect the Quran. They say specifically, even though I feel bad to say it, but I will say to show that, is to throw the Quran in dirty places. And that's, we will talk inshallah next week when we talk about magic. That's one of the ways the shayateen, the jinn, the kuffar jinn, non-Muslim jinn, they get the magician to be with them, to serve him. They say, to serve you, you must do something like that. Or to pray 4 times, not 5. And to believe that it's not obligatory to pray 5. That's kufr. Because why? It contradicts the Quran. You're saying Allah didn't say the truth. And it contradicts the Prophet ﷺ. And Ibn Mas'ud said, وَهُوَ الصَّادِقُ الْمَصْدُوقُ, that he is the truthful and the one who is believed, and the one who has been said he is true by Allah. Now, and of course statements like abusing Sabbuddin, abusing Islam, abusing the Prophet ﷺ. Unfortunately, in some Muslim countries, it's widespread. Abusing the deen, abusing Allah, ikhwan. If you don't believe, ask some brothers who know. In some countries, it exists, unfortunately. When they get angry, they abuse Allah, they abuse the deen. They do kufr. We don't say they're kuffar, I will explain why. Takfir, to declare someone to be a non-Muslim who is a Muslim. Because we don't differ regarding who is not a Muslim. Because the ulama said there is a difference between hukm al-zahir, hukm al-dunya, wa hukm al-akhirah. So hukm al-dunya, the issue of the dunya, everyone is on the zahir. Meaning, we have Muslims born into Muslim family, what do we say? Muslim. We have kuffar born into non-Muslim family, we say non-Muslim until proven otherwise. That is in the dunya. In the akhirah, we don't know everyone from the non-Muslims who knew exactly the message of Islam. Even though there is a difference nowadays between the ulama, and it's a long difference going back long time, but I say nowadays because now many ulama say, because of the media and other things, there is no excuse left. And some say no, the Islam portrayed in the media is not the correct Islam. So if they don't like it, we can't say that they have known Islam. So that is regarding the akhirah for the kuffar. Meaning, if the correct Islam didn't reach them, then what happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send the messengers or messenger on the day of judgment to try them. Because Allah doesn't wrong anyone. But we're talking about doing takfir of a Muslim. First of all, that should be left to the ulama. The ulama. So for example, someone does kufr. In that case, we go and ask the alim. The more the better. Like now we have some problems going on somewhere. We say, the more the better. We go to ulama of Pakistan, India, Saudi, everywhere where we find ulama. The more the better. Why? Because it's very severe thing. Very severe. To take someone, because the ulama said, if you say someone is a kafir, means if he's married, his wife is haram for him. Means if he dies, he can't be buried with the Muslims. Means if he dies, he cannot be inherited. Many ahkam that are severe, so it is very severe. It's not like saying, oh, that's something and doing something easy. It is very severe. For that reason, anyone who fears Allah, he must not rush to call a Muslim bad names, let alone say he's a kafir. Whatever he thinks, doesn't matter, because takfir, and that is the first principle we have, is hukm shar'i, is from Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we can't call everyone we don't like kafir. Some people, they say, you don't agree with us, you're a kafir. And that's especially the way of Ahlul Bid'ah, the way of people of innovations, from the time of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Because the Khawarij, I spoke about them in the khutbah today. The Khawarij, one of their characteristics is to do takfir of those who differ with them. Why? Because they say they're the ones who are upon the truth. and everyone else, he knows nothing, including Sahaba radiallahu anhu. So it's very dangerous. So you will find that when you go to a real alim, you will know real alim. When you meet a real alim, you will know. Some people say, how do we know? You will know. Some say, oh, you know, he's talking mystically. No, I'm not. You will know because of how they behave, how they talk, how they speak, how they eat, how they do everything. And if you ask them about takfir, you will see they will think for long time. Because they will be asked about it in front of Allah. That is why takfir, the ulama said, hukum shar'i. So whomever Allah and the Prophet ﷺ declared to be kafir, we say kafir. But to make a distinction between what the ulama call itlaq, who does something is kafir, and ta'yin, which is that person ABC is a kafir. For that reason we go to the ulama, the big ulama. Because takfir, jihad, those big things, it's not for someone who is on the internet day and night. Yes, he's a kafir. We're doing jihad tomorrow. MashaAllah. He's doing jihad with Nescafe. He's got another cup, MashaAllah. He did the first jihad, then the second jihad, second battle, and he can't even speak against his wife probably. His wife is in charge. If she says remove the internet, he's doing jihad, mashallah, on the internet. We're doing jihad. Ikhwan, mashallah, Allahu Akbar. He doesn't even know. Maybe it's some agent telling him, yes, Allahu Akbar. Mashallah. Oh, Allahu Akbar. So their conversation is all Allahu Akbar. Wallahi, it's true. Some people, subhanallah, they don't even think about things they do. They say, oh, what do you think of this alim? He's a kafir. What is this? Now anyone can write anything. It's not like before you have to send a letter, telegram. Anyone who's got a computer and broadband or internet, however bad the connection is, they can do something. So he becomes internet mufti. Because in reality he's not a mufti, but he's internet mufti. Then he comes out from hiding after destroying a few hundred lives or more. He comes out of hiding, then he becomes a real mufti. Then the problems increase. But that is why it's very important for us to understand that takfir is not for everyone. And one of the signs of people who fear Allah is they are afraid to do takfir. And one of the signs of people who don't fear Allah or fear Him little is that they rush to do takfir. They rush. And even tafsiq, tabdi', someone is mubtadi', someone is fasiq, someone is even asin, is disobeying Allah. He's an innovator. It's not easy for a person who fears Allah and knows Islam and what the ulama say to do that. And the second principle, which is very important, is al-aslu fil muslimi dhahir al-adalati baqa'ul Islam. A Muslim remains a Muslim. Who is a good Muslim remains a Muslim until we have other proof. And third principle is he doesn't become لا يكفر إلا بعد إقامة الحجة وإزالة الشبهة. So he doesn't become a kafir until he is explained what is wrong in his belief, in his actions or statements. And he should not have any shubha left. Everything must be cleared. Who can do it in the best way? The ulama. And if not, if we can't get access to the ulama, we request them to send fatwa, or we try to somehow, we don't, oh ulama we do takfir of him. No, we don't do. Some people used to pester me in Leicester. You know, these people, they're kuffar. I said, Ikhwan, leave me. Just if you want to do takfir, do. But I can't do takfir of them. I'm not in a position, number one. And I don't want to. If you want, even one of the sheikhs came, they asked him the same question. So when he answered, Alhamdulillah, the same as me, they said, no, but they continued. So he said, look, ikhwan, you want to ask about someone who is a kafir, or you think he's a kafir, give me his name, address, date of birth, and everything, and what he says or believes. I take to the ulama. That's it. All of that, ikhwan, I'm saying because we have now big fitna in the Muslim world. That fitna is not new. It started all the way the time of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And the Prophet said it will not finish until some of them or they fight with the Dajjal. Not against the Dajjal. With the Dajjal. So don't be surprised if someone says everyone is a kafir, wholesale takfir. One sheikh said to me in Jordan, and he knows him personally, he said, there is a person who does takfir of himself. He says, A'udhu billah, that's kufr, I became a kafir. So he goes and says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and does ghusl, says, Alhamdulillah, now I'm a Muslim again. It's true. I mean, it reached such levels because they are fed with their own information. If you have a nice tree and you keep watering it in a bad way, what do you get? Ugly. Doesn't grow nice. And if you have a tree that you water with nice water and give nice nourishment, which is the correct knowledge, the correct belief, it grows into a nice tree, which Allah spoke about in Surah Ibrahim. Another principle, very important, there is no difference in that, in takfir and in excusing someone by jahl, by ignorance, between what some people call usul and furu', which is the more important things and less important things, or belief and fatwa. What it means is, if someone has some problem in aqidah, he may have that problem because they believe something and they have an excuse. For that reason, that stops the alim from doing takfir. Like for example, some ulama used to say, like Imam Ahmad, Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, and others, and of course some people abuse Ibn Taymiyyah and do takfir of him even. They don't know anything about Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. Some people, they say, you know, Shaykh Al-Albani is such and such. They said, do you know Shaykh Al-Albani? He said, no. How can you say? If you say, that car is rubbish, say, did you drive it? No. Do you know anyone who drove it? No. How do you know it's good or bad? I just don't like it. You can't do like that. We are talking about the ulama. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, why do you hate him? Why do you love him? You have to know. Everyone has to know. So Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Ahmad, other great imams, they used to say, Imam Ahmad, look, subhanallah, 3 khalifas punished him. Let's say 2, the third had rahmah on him. And they used to say, you must say Quran is created. Quran is sifa, is kalamullah, speech of Allah. Speech is an attribute of Allah. So how can an attribute of Allah be created? So it's not correct belief. And Imam Ahmad used to say, it's kufr to say it, but the rulers who used to say it, when they died, he said, Allah maghfir lah. Oh, Allah forgive them. Because he said they were juhal, they don't know. They just repeat what some others say. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahmallah used to say to some people who argue with him, look at his rahmah, ikhwan. If I said what you say, I would be a kafir. But you are not. Where do we find this from people of bid'ah who call us Wahhabi? Where? They talk about bad manners. Where is the good manners? Where? Good manners only between themselves. When it comes to Sunnah and Tawheed, bad manners. Kafir, kafir, kafir. Where is it? Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he used to have an opponent called Bakri. He was extreme Sufi. He used to say it's permissible to seek help from others than Allah. Kufr Akbar. And he refuted him. He has a famous book called Rad al-Bakri. That Bakri, he made a problem with Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. The ruler became aware of it. They started looking for him because he hit Ibn Taymiyyah. Hit. Physically. Assault. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah didn't do anything. That's what people don't know. Many people don't know. So the people complained that he hit Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. So the ruler started looking for Bakri. He hid everywhere. No place to go. He went to the house of Ibn Taymiyyah. How does he know he's going to let him in? He knows. He knows. And Ibn Taymiyyah hid him. Allahu Akbar, ikhwan. He hid him. And he went to the ruler, said, please don't punish him. Because he repented. Where is that now? Where is it? And what do you think that had an effect on that man? More than 1,000 muhadara. Correct or not? Naam. So that I'm saying just to show how great Ibn Taymiyyah was, rahimahullah. Only great people can do it. So before you abuse or someone abuses good people, and especially ulama, great ulama, the scholars of this ummah, rahimahumullah, we must fear Allah and we must know about them a bit more. And of course the ulama mentioned about udhr, being excused. They said in issues that are more difficult, we should give more excuse. In places and times where there is more jahl, we should give more excuse. I personally, I'm born into a Muslim family. But even when I read and I started learning, I'm still just a beginner. But when I was just at the very beginning, I started learning and I read some ulama, they say, you know, some people far from ilm, far from Ahlul ilm, the ulama, they believe like this, they have excuse. And I said, subhanallah, I will tell you something you won't believe. When I was there where I came from, the former Soviet Union, now called Russian Federation, we as Muslims, we used to believe khamr is halal. Because we used to fast Ramadan, after that, after iftar, I mean, not Eid. Eid, of course. You have to have. If you're a guest, the first thing they used to put, now alhamdulillah, many do still, but less. They used to put vodka. We used to believe that zina is halal, girlfriends is halal. All of these are kufr akbar, ikhwan. But the ulama, they say places far, and if someone said you're a kafir, we would have fought him. We don't accept. And that I'm giving you not to say we are proud, of course not. These are mahasi. Riyadhan billah, we seek forgiveness from Allah. But I'm giving you examples of what can happen when people are far away from knowledge. Because the first thing, the people who want to make us far away from knowledge, what do, you think? Remove Arabic. Because if you don't have Arabic, you can't read anything. And if you can't read anything, you don't know much. That's the first thing. Look in history. If you don't want anything else, just look in history what people do when they go to Muslim countries. Somalis, they used to have Arabic alphabet. Many countries, any country you name almost, used to be Muslim, they used to have Arabic alphabet. So that the ulama give excuse. So the person who is in that environment or in that place has more excuse. So someone who never heard of Islam and he believes certain things, of course they have excuse. The media they watch, ikhwan, brothers and sisters, what do they show? Ahmadis, or better not to call them Qadianis, mashallah, Muslims, yeah. They're not Muslims. They say we have this and we have that, another prophet coming, and someone becomes, and Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah used to give example by them. Imagine someone became Muslim believing Qadianism is Islam. How can you say that he knows Islam? Or they show that, like we always say, Islam means killing and blood, and they show a crowd of Pakistanis running somewhere with the image of some president. Allahu A'lam. They must have changed that poster every time the new president comes. And they burn. You know, they show a negative image of Muslims. They never show Muslim happy or thinking. Have you ever seen image of Muslim thinking? No, he's always with his mouth like this and burning something with a like this. What is this? What is this? So people, they watch. Imagine someone like yourself. You come from work, you just switch on. What's this or whatever they say? Oh my God, or something. These people, what are they? If you then don't have any brains, you believe what they say because you don't analyze. Really, do people in Pakistan behave like that? Because if you're a clever person, even if you're not a Muslim, you will analyze a little bit. Really, are people in Malaysia like that? Are people in those Arab countries like that? Naam. So those, they have more. And if even a Muslim, he is in that environment, of course they have, we're talking about takfir in terms of giving udhr. And also they said regarding excuse in the person who wants to follow the truth, but he didn't know it, how to follow. And also they said another principle, it differs regarding the circumstances of the person. Sometimes, this is what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said. He said, look at his statements, ikhwan. People who lie about him, they must read his statements. He said, فَلَيْسَ كُلُّ مُخْطِئٍ. Not everyone who makes a mistake. وَلَا مُبْتَدِعٍ. And not everyone who can be called a mubtadi'. وَلَا جَاهِلٍ. And not someone who can be called jahil. وَلَا ضَالٍ. And someone who can be called far from the straight path. يَكُونُ كَافِرًا. Not everyone like that can be called kafir. بَلْ وَلَا فَاسِقًا. And not even fasiq. بَلْ وَلَا عَاصِيًا. Not even disobeying Allah. Why? Depends on his circumstances. So before the person says fasiq, kafir, munafiq, look how many things you need to consider. Also, just like iman, we say that iman, the Prophet said in the hadith of Abu Hurairah, iman has branches, correct? So the ulama say when we talk about, and Shaykh Sa'di has a very nice book called Shajaratul Iman, the tree of iman. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Alam tara kayfa darab Allahu mathalan kalimatan tayyibatan ka shajaratin tayyibah. So Allah said, and all the ulama agree that that example of a good word like a good tree is kalimatul tawheed. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So the iman is like a tree. It has roots, it has the main, it has branches. Some branches fall off, the root is still there. The person suffers, but his iman is there. Meaning, if you chop it down or you uproot it, the person is no longer a Muslim. But some leaves fall, some branches chopped off, still a Muslim. The same kufr, they said, dhu asl wa shu'ab. Kufr has root and it has branches. So that they said is important to differentiate between the asl, the root, and the branches. They said that for what reason? They said, if someone does shu'ba min shu'bat al-kufr, if someone does some kufr or says or believes, it doesn't mean he is a kafir automatically. The same way as a person, they said, who does some iman. We have 70 plus or 60 plus branches, the Prophet said. What's the highest we know? A'laha, la ilaha illallah. Qawlu la ilaha illallah. So saying is iman, correct? Adnaha, what's the lowest, the Prophet said? An example he gave. To remove something, adha an al-tariq. So something that harms the people. Is that a statement, action, or belief? To remove. Action. So action is part of iman or not? Part of Iman. والحياء شعبة من الإيمان. What's حياء? Being shy is part of Iman. Shy is where? In the hand or tongue or in the heart? In the heart. So in this hadith, the Prophet mentioned all three. Is the actions of the heart, what we call أعمال القلوب. That's haya. He gave an example, because it's not all, it's example. And he gave the highest is La ilaha illallah, the statement and belief in the heart, and to remove something from. So the ulama, they say, if a person removes something from the way, it doesn't mean he's a complete believer, does it? He did something from Iman. The same if someone did something of kufr, doesn't mean he is a kafir totally. That's very important to understand. And one of the greatest principles of Ahlul Sunnah, which the people of Bid'ah differed with, and they therefore became far from the Sunnah, is they said, قَدْ يَجْتَمِعْ فِي الرَّجُلِ كُفْرٌ وَإِيمَانٌ. Sometimes in one person there can be belief and disbelief. وَشِرْكٌ وَتَوْحِيدٌ. And shirk and tawheed. I will explain how it can be. وَتَقْوَى وَفُجُورٌ. In one person can be taqwa and disobedience to Allah. وَنِفَاقٌ وَإِيمَانٌ. And some nifaq and iman. And the ulama said, وَهَذَا مِنْ أَعْظَمْ أُصُولِ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ. One of the greatest principles of Ahlul Sunnah. And they gave examples from Surah Yusuf, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. Most of them, they don't believe much except that they have shirk, or they do shirk. So Allah said, they believe and they do some shirk. We don't say that mushrik is a Muslim. No. Some shirk and iman. قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا. So iman with some disobedience, and Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned from his Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah. Naam. And the ulama say that the person, because many people when you talk to them, even in fiqh or in aqidah or in any other, they say ijma', ijma', it's ijma'. So they scare you. I don't want to go against ijma'. Because when they have nothing left to say, they say ijma'. Stop here. It's consensus. So if you go against consensus of all ulama, that's dangerous. It can take the person out of the deen. Billah. So they say ijma'. So the ulama put a principle, especially in kufr and iman. Especially in kufr, since we talk about kufr. They said, whoever goes against something that is agreed upon, it must be easy to know. Must be easy to know. So for example, some hard issue in inheritance, and someone says, no, it's not true. You say he's a kafir, a'udhu all ulama ijma', and he's saying that. Because inheritance, how many people know? But if someone, what the ulama call in Arabic, ma'loom min ad-din bid-darura, something naturally known from the deen. And of course, they also put a principle. Al-ma'loom min ad-din bid-darura amrun idafi aw nisbi min makan ila makan wa zaman ila zaman. What is known naturally from the deen differs. Person who lives with the ulama is not like person lives far from the ulama. Therefore, all of these principles they put, why? To protect the person from being called a kafir, which was the way of the Prophet ﷺ. But they don't mean like some people accuse and they say, oh, even kuffar, you say Muslim. No. Everyone, we said the first principle is hukum shar'i, is who Allah called kafir truly, we say kafir. But what we're saying is, we can't just say about any Muslim he's a kafir. We need these careful principles. That is why when someone says, oh, Yakhi, this is known to every Muslim, we say, Yakhi, maybe it's not known to him. These they put to keep the people in Islam. And of course we have people who trying to push everyone out of Islam. Like that person who even says, I'm a kafir. Then he does ghusl, then he in the same day becomes a kafir again. That's a condition. He doesn't need alim, he needs a psychiatrist. It's called takfiritis or something. That's a very dangerous condition. You know, it has bad consequences, like the one we just witnessed. It's very dangerous. Some people, Allah, need psychiatrists. They don't need ulama. Because they are strange the way they behave. Now, also they said, what we think logically follows from people's statements and actions doesn't necessarily mean they believe it. Because if we say, you just said this, it means that, and that's kufr, we can't say that. Naam. And also, to be on the safe side, it is not correct to do takfir in what the ulama call, in which the ulama differed. And Shaykh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, rahullah, about whom also people lie. I have a very small article on al-Burhaan.net if you want to read about Shaykh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab in his defense, because people accuse us of being Wahhabi. And of course, Abdul Wahhab is his father. I don't know why they bother his father, rahimahullah. To abuse someone's father is not correct. It's from Kaba'ir al-Dhunub. So I don't know why people took this label and keep sticking to people. Like terrorist. Naam, Wahhabi. Or you call to Sunnah, a'udhu billah. Naam. So Shaykh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah, and the people lie about him. At least read what he said and then talk. He used to say, وَلَا نُكَفِّرْ إِلَّا بِمَا أَجْمَعَ عَلَيْهِ الْعُلَمَاء. He used to say, I don't do takfir except what all ulama said is kufr. All ulama. Even if they differed, he says, no, I don't want to do takfir. Look what people lie. They say he does takfir because that's why he said it. In his time, they used to say, you say takfir, he's a kafir, he's mushrik, he's dead. No. Now, and we have just a couple of points to mention, and that is nifaq generally is worse than kufr. Nifaq generally, nifaq akbar worse than kufr akbar, nifaq asghar worse than kufr asghar. Generally, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the hypocrites, as far as I remember Surah An-Nisa, fi ad-darki al-asfali min an-nar. Because the ulama who did tafsir of this ayah in the lowest level of the hellfire, they said what? They said nar has levels just like Jannah. The hellfire has levels. And the hypocrites, they will be in the lowest. And of course their punishment, it will come before even they reach that stage. Because they will be taken the light away from them. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described. And finally, since we don't have much time left, we say that there are certain shurut, there are certain conditions of takfir, and there are certain mawani', we call them. They're very easy to remember. The things that prevent takfir. And those are generally three. Ilm, the person knows that what they do is kufr. That's why Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Ahmad, they said to them, if I said that, I would be a kafir. Because they don't know. Look, even he talked to them. He talked to them. And now we say, after 2 minutes, Akhi, I explained everything. What's wrong with you? You don't believe? A'udhu billah. Yani Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah explained everything to them. They used to say when Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah gives a lesson, some people sleep because he goes on for 3 hours, 4 hours. Some people sleep. So they say, Sheikh, sleeping. People are sleeping. So he stops. Imagine how he explains to them, rahimahullah. And he says, if I said what you say, I would be a kafir, but you are ignorant people. You are ignorant people. So ilm is shart. Ilm meaning the person must know that what they say or believe or do is kufr. That's why not everyone who does kufr is a kafir. Like to do sujood to someone out of ta'zeem, to respect. Is it allowed in Islam or not? How about ruku', to bow? Is it allowed or not? Some brothers go martial arts, yeah? And the Japanese culture and Chinese culture, they say just out of respect, just do some ruku'. I know because I used to go. So I said to one instructor, I said, you know, I'm a Muslim. So he got a bit upset. I said, I'm a Muslim, so I can't do all this ruku' and stuff. They used to do sujood even, ikhwan. To the founder, sujood. To the hall. What's the hall? To the hall sujood. What's the hall? Yani there's nothing to do sujood to except to hall. To the instructor, sujood. I said, I can't do all this. He said, I can't teach you then. I said, no problem. We don't do shirk. We don't do kufr. Yeah. Many brothers say, no problem, just he's out of respect. You respect him or Allah more? Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, he went to Sham. And in Sham used to be Christians. And he said, I saw the Christians doing sujood out of respect. So you, Rasulullah, you deserve it more. He did sujood. The Prophet said, no, it's not allowed. So he didn't say kafir, just do shahada now. Naam, because he didn't know, number one. And to do sujood, the ulama said to sanam. Idol is kufr amali. Is kufr by action. And it can also include to do sujood to someone else, believing that they are like that. These are all texts to show that ilm, to know that what the person does is kufr or shirk or nifaq akbar. Ikhtiyar, that the person does it on his own choice, of his own volition, doesn't get coerced into it. That's why Allah said, Surah Al-Nahl, إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهُ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. Except the one he's allowed to say kufr, who is forced, and he meaning forced, you must say kufr. Oh, I'm forced now. No, the ulama said either he fears to be killed or to be severely tortured or something like that. Allah allowed to say kufr, but to believe that you say with your tongue, not with your heart. You don't believe in that. وَلَكِنْ مَنْ شَرَحَ بِالْكُفْرِ صَدْرًا. The one who accepts kufr. So, qasd, meaning the person must intend to do that action, not intend kufr, because no one intends kufr, the ulama said. Everyone says, I intend to do Islam. I had a few meetings, or one I think, or two meetings with Qadianis. They say, we are Muslims. Why they say, your ulama, they do takfir of us. So they say, we are Muslims, we do Islam. Now, so the person must intend to do it, meaning he doesn't, if he does it forgetfully, he didn't intend it. And if he didn't mean it and so on, so he must mean it, he must intend to do that action. And the things that prevent, we're finishing now, that they are the opposite. So ilm, the opposite of it is jahl. So if a person doesn't know jahil, then he can't become a kafir. If the person was forced, he can't become a kafir. If the person didn't intend, he can't become a kafir. And that's how we finish. We don't have enough time.